Chatting to Investec CEO Stephen Koseff. You're watching Captains on CNBC Africa. Stephen, it's always a pleasure to sit down with you. Over the years, I think we've chatted about many economic scenarios. We've certainly chatted extensively about Investec, your growth aspirations, and where you are today. I want to take a step back and start with South Africa from a macroeconomic perspective and how you are feeling about the country at the moment with relatively muted growth on the horizon.
The current pace of growth is no good for a society that needs to create jobs. I've always seen South Africa like a tale of two cities. We've got some things that we do very well, and then they're the problem areas, or as a lot of people say, where we have challenges. And it's really to fix the challenges. Don't destroy what is working well, but concentrate on fixing the challenges. And I believe we should be a much more business-friendly society. We have a very strong private sector. We ranked very highly on the World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Report on a number of factors.
Except labour relations.
Yes, labour relations is one of our challenges. Clearly, infrastructure is another challenge. We have a whole lot of plans to bring more electricity onto the grid. It's just taking too long to get there. I'm a big believer in public-private partnerships. I've seen how well the renewable energy projects have worked and how they've been brought to book a lot quicker than the direct Eskom projects. And I think that tells us a story. It tells us a story of the difference between private sector capability and government capability. Government must act as an enabler. Private sector must run with the ball.
Let's pause on electricity for a moment, because I think this is the elephant in the room. Everybody is talking about it at dinner tables, on the weekends, etc., etc. What is going to happen when winter comes along? I mean, we are now, the realistic scenario is we in the middle of summer, well, it's coming to the end, and we in stage 2 load shedding. Now, are alarm bells going off among the business community right now?
As an optimist, I hope that the load shedding now is to do maintenance that gets us through the winter. That's as an optimist. I mean, a pessimist will say, oh, winter's going to be a disaster. I don't know. I can't answer the question. I mean, I hope that the maintenance is being done that enables us to get through the winter.
How's it impacting your business?
Well, we're fortunate that we got backup UPS, we got backup generators. We have to stay alive. So when the power fails, I'm not even aware the power is failing, because we immediately switch over to the batteries, and then within 30 seconds the generators go. So, if it's sustained and you get this phase 4, which talks about 2-week national blackouts, I think that will be a big problem for all of us. I mean, clearly the generators will tide us over for a bit, but then there will probably be a shortage of diesel. So I'm as an optimist, I don't think we're going to go there, but pessimists will think we're going there tonight.
Captains of industry must be scenario planning about electricity shortages, blackouts, national blackouts. What is your peer group? What are the discussions with your peer group?
Well, we're even thinking about, should we be building an electricity plant in Sandton so that we can make Sandton independent? Those are the kinds of things we're starting to talk about. What would it cost us? Could it be effective? Could we bring it on stream? How long would it take us to get it on stream so that we become more electricity independent? And, I hope that government realize that partnership with private sector is a solution. To put everything on one organization's table and put the whole country at risk is not the right way to go.
We've got the National Development Plan.
Yes.
It's a great plan. It's now in motion. It was launched in 2012. Yeah. Are we starting to reap the benefits of discussions between labour, business, civil society and government?
I think that's the one side where I go to the positive. I think there's much more dialogue. I think the issue is really around how we're going to execute. And if I'm defaulting back to the public-private partnerships that we had on the renewable projects. And if we can use that model more extensively, cogeneration and those sorts of things, I think we'll go a long way. I think the NDP also depends likewise on the private sector playing its role. If the private sector don't play a proactive role in the NDP, and it is important for government to act as the enabler here, I think we will sit in 10 years' time or 15 years' time and say, the NDP didn't achieve anything.
Do you believe that the private sector is committed to making the NDP a reality, or a success rather?
I think that, I would say it is very committed. I would say it endorses the NDP. I would say for it to really get involved, it needs proper engagement with government, because the private sector is always looking to do work. If it's commercial and they can make a profit out of it, they will do it. Similar to the new renewable energy projects. And it will create jobs if it's done in the right way. So private sector is always looking to do things, and it wants to be active, but it has to be in a proper partnership with government.
February is always a big month for South Africa. We have the State of the Nation address on us shortly. Obviously, President Zuma will be addressing the nation, and then shortly after that, on the 25th of February, we have the budget. What will you be looking for as positive signs from policymakers?
Well, you would like some clarity from certainly the President on how we're going to go forward. We wouldn't like, we heard him in his speech in Cape Town where he was blaming the apartheid regime and those things, but that can't be a reality. We've had 20 years, and we've gone from a big surplus to a big deficit, not because of all the electrification, it's because of all the aged equipment that is no longer functional. So we'd like him to be honest and say, listen, we've made a mistake here, and this is the extra effort we're going to put in to get it right. And to embrace, become a more business-friendly society. I know that it's difficult for them from an ideological point of view, but there's no more time. We can't waste any more time. And we need to transform our society in the best possible way. And the one way is to build skills, to create hope, to create, not for people to be depressed about the fact that things are breaking down.
And from the Finance Minister, Minister Nene, on the 25th?
Well, yeah, he needs a few, he needs a few billion rand, so one is expecting some kind of tax hikes. And I'm not sure what they're going to be. I would expect something on the wealthy.
So an increase in the marginal tax rate for individuals, you believe?
It's not going to give him the money he needs, so he's going to have to get other money from somewhere else. So I don't know if it'll come from VAT, or it will come from a fuel levy because they've had some space there. I'm not sure. But
the bottom line is we're going to see more taxes.
Well, we need to fill a hole, and we've got fiscal consolidation. I think he did save us from rating downgrades with his mini-budget speech in November, and I think that was a very good thing. And I think that he's going to have to do something to balance his budget, but on the other hand, he can't retard growth, because it is like an ecosystem. You go too far the one way, and you have an unintended consequence. So these things all need to be finely balanced.
Do you think that the saving of the downgrade, or saving South Africa from a downgrade, is merely kicking the can down the road, and that ultimately it's inevitable?
I hope not. I think that if we manage to get our fiscus under control and we restore growth, remember last year we had big problems with labour in the mining sector, so that took away a lot of growth. I think this year our problem is, as we discussed earlier, are we going to keep the lights on, and can we create a mobile South Africa, an active South Africa? So, I think we've still got a big opportunity in South Africa. We should be the head office for all the international parties coming to Africa. We shouldn't lose out to Kenya. We have to tell people we're open for business. We must make it easy for them to open businesses. There is a lot of red tape. We have to break that down. And the one thing I loved about the NDP was the term professionalize the civil service. I travel a lot, and when you go to some countries and you see how professional the civil service is, and it is competitive with the private sector, that has to be an aspiration of ours as a society. And that's what I loved about the NDP, apart from all the infrastructure development and this partnership with the private sector that it spoke about. Professionalizing the civil service was the key.
I can't be sitting here with one of the top CEOs in banking in the country and not talk to you about interest rates. We've seen in South Africa interest rates are on hold. Do you think that that is going to be the status quo for some time to come?
Yeah, I think lower for longer is probably the theory. I think you saw short-term interest rates and long-term interest rates jump a bit when the US jobs numbers came through, and the fact that the economy was growing. Even though unemployment didn't come down, there were more people coming into the labour market, and everyone read that as positive for the US growth, but negative for interest rates. I don't think there's a need to push up interest rates. I don't think inflation is an issue unless the oil price ran back up to 80 or 100.
You're talking about South Africa now,
Yeah,
and US.
globally the challenge is deflation. How do we avoid deflation? I read today 8 countries in Europe are suffering from deflation. If that takes hold, then you're in a Japan scenario. It's very hard to get the economy out of deflation. US has got low inflation, UK low inflation. There is no real need for them to push up rates yet. They need to push up rates when they need to fight inflation, or alternatively when the economy is getting overheated and you're getting asset price bubbles.
The big question that we've asked on financial news desks over and over for years and years now is what happens when the US finally does raise interest rates? What does that mean for emerging markets? Are we going to see money now flooding out of emerging markets as a result of increased rates in the US?
Yeah, look, we saw that last year in about January, Feb, where money started flowing out of emerging markets because of the US pulling out of QE. But I think we've got Japan and Europe going into QE, so that sort of might smooth the thing over for quite a while.
You're not expecting interest rates to rise in the US anytime soon?
Probably not for the next 6 months, but maybe thereafter.
Are you worried when they do go up?
No. Depends on how fast they go up.
I'm chatting to Stephen Koseff, the CEO of Investec. You're watching Captains here on CNBC Africa. You're watching Captains on CNBC Africa. I'm chatting to Stephen Koseff, the CEO of Investec. You must have one eye on the eurozone right now and Greece. I see ex-Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan was quoted as saying that it's inevitable that Greece will exit the eurozone. That's the only solution to their debt issues. Yeah,
look, if they're not going to get any change out of Europe, Europe has done what it can do. And you've even got the Irish, the Portuguese, the Cypriots who've all been bailed out, and the Spanish haven't been bailed out, but they had to go through pain in adjusting their economies, saying, we're starting to see growth in our economies because we've done the right thing. We've actually implemented austerity. It's not pleasant, but if you want a fixed exchange rate and your linkage is basically to German work ethic, then you've got to be as disciplined as the Germans. Otherwise, you can't be part of their game. So I think that's probably what Greenspan is saying, is the cultures of the different societies are so vastly different that it's very difficult for them to stay in the euro, who by and large would be determined by the biggest economy in Europe, which is Germany.
Do you think we're on the verge of a complete breakup of the eurozone?
No. I think that there's a chance that Greece step down, avoid exit, and that the political promises by Syriza, I think that's what they're called, will have to be broken, because they're now dealing with the reality of society, reality of economics, but there is also a chance that they have to exit.
What does that mean then for Italy, Spain? Surely it's like a pack of cards.
I don't see it as a pack of cards. I think that if Greece exit, people obviously will watch. If it works very well, some will say, I don't need to be part of Europe. I think most of them do need to be part of Europe. So I don't think it necessarily means that everyone will exit. I think the risk of that is over.
While we're talking about Europe, ECB, as you mentioned, quantitative easing, they're now taking the route that the US took some while back. Is it too little, too late?
It's too late, but I would guess it's always helpful. I think that we are seeing the US economy come out very nicely. We saw all of a sudden you're starting to get wage growth at the middle to lower end, which is what Janet Yellen wants. She wants to see wage growth at the lower end because you've had 20 years of the middle income people not getting any benefit from economic growth. But Europe, handle themselves very differently. America fixes up its problems very quickly and moves on. Europe, it's like herding cats. You've got to get a lot of people to agree. So it's sort of like limps along. But I think, I don't know if it's too little. It's a bit late, but it will all help.
You mentioned US, and Investec has a small business in the US.
Yeah, we had a big one about 10 years ago, 12
about
years
1,000
ago.
people, and you downscale to around 30. Is that about
Yeah,
right?
around about that.
Now with the upturn in the US, is there renewed interest from your teams
No,
in that territory?
no. We do a bit. We do very select stuff in the US. We have asset management which sell their products. So we have more than 30 now. We have probably 20 on the banking side and 30, even a bit more than that on the asset management side. They distribute into the Americas, one of the biggest global investors. And then we have Investec Securities, which sells both UK and South African stocks into the US market. And we have some project finance people there between New York, and we have a small office in Canada, part of our global renewable energy team. It's working quite well with just a handful of people. It's not for us to go banking in the US. It's too hard to compete.
Let's talk about the territories you are in: Australia, the United Kingdom, and obviously South Africa.
Even Australia, we sold our bank and we're running more of a boutique operation in the last year. So
But you still have a presence in Australia?
Yes, yeah, but we've scaled down quite a lot, but it's still it's more corporate and corporate orientated, and we have a property fund there, and we have asset management there. So we've still got a reasonable presence on the ground, and we're active. Obviously, our biggest hub is the UK, and we have a branch in Ireland. UK is similar to the US, did QE, economy's come out of it, growing at 2.6% per annum, and it's going into an election, so we don't know what the election will bring. So it might hesitate for a bit now, but really, it's unemployment has come right down, so it is moving into a decent space.
After the restructuring that you referred to, you happy now? Investec is right-sized and it's all systems go?
Yeah, I think we've still got some work to do on legacy stuff in the bank, but we've really simplified. We sold the mortgage business. We're sitting on piles of cash, too much cash. That's part of the problem now.
No, you shouldn't say that on television, Stephen.
Huh?
You shouldn't say that on television.
We're sitting on too much cash.
You're sitting on too much cash, because everyone's going to want to buy to that. Shareholders are going to want some of it back.
It's liabilities, it's not equity.
Well clarified. Okay. I think that's well clarified.
No, that's not. They confuse cash with capital. We well capitalized, but we're not sitting on too much capital, but we're sitting on too much cash.
10 years out, how big is Investec Asset Management in the life of the overall group?
Well, it's gone, both Investec Asset Management and Investec Wealth have gone from 20% at the time of the financial crisis to 55% at our last reported earnings. Odd, somewhere around that number. I might have it slightly out. And that's in 7 years. It just depends on if they maintain the momentum. So we have two non-banking businesses, wealth and asset management. And wealth we've grown a little bit by acquisition. That is quite a big business today, particularly in the UK. And asset management, more global business.
Talking about, I know numerous journalists have asked you over and over again, what about succession? And I've read your answers. You're not going anywhere soon, and neither is Bernard Cantor. I want to turn that question on its head, and I look at what you have said is that ultimately when it does happen, could be in 10 years' time for all we know, is that you would prefer an internal candidate.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know how people like Hendrik du Toit, Kieran Whelan, and Andy Leith are going about potentially campaigning for that down the line, or am I pushing too far?
No, they carry on running their businesses. They concentrate on their clients.
But you do believe it'll be an internal candidate when it does happen?
Yeah, we're hopeful that we'll have an internal candidate.
I know you're not going to give me any more on that. Let's come back to Investec and to new growth opportunities. Are there any territories that you are eyeing beyond your existing geographic spread?
Look, we do a bit in Africa. We're not going to open up banks in Africa, but we're looking to capture deal flow, trade flow, participate, support banks in other parts of the country and corporates. So Africa obviously is an area that we're starting to grow in, but we're not buying a bank there. Then if we get to UK, Europe, we have domestic businesses in both the UK, Ireland, and a bank in Switzerland. that's quite small. So the UK, we're starting to roll out the private banking offering into the UK. We've launched some of it to our South African clientele, and we're building up the UK franchise, similar to what we did in South Africa probably 18 years ago. So moving more from a lender against property,
You've thrown your hat in the ring for Coutts, the private banking arm of the Royal Bank of Scotland.
That's speculation.
Is that speculation?
Yes, that's speculation.
It'd be quite nice to bank the Queen, wouldn't it?
Huh?
It would be quite
They're
nice
not
to bank the Queen.
selling the UK arm, it's only
the
Coutts
international. I
yeah.
see in the latest press release they're saying that actually like Coutts to go in its entirety, if you believe press reports. But
yeah, no,
obviously you would know more than I do.
I don't know about in its entirety. That again would be speculation.
Stephen, coming back to you and your success and what you have done as a South African businessman, as an entrepreneur, when we showcase interviews of this nature, entrepreneurs, businessmen wanting to climb corporate ranks are watching, looking for some crumbs to success and the secrets of success. So I want you to give me a little color on that front.
Look, you get different types of entrepreneurs. I joined a business that already existed. There were 8 people, and I started running it together with Bernard in about 1988. So, but Investec existed. So I worked in Investec from 1980 to 1988. So I'm the type that's built a career in a firm and helped grow and develop that firm. And
but it's a very entrepreneurial nature in Investec.
Yes, we've had to be entrepreneurial to grow and develop in the industry that we're in. You see other types of entrepreneurs who create startups and then sell them. They're a different animal to the type that I am, that has been in a corporate space, where you have to start building on your organizational culture, the kind of people that you bring into the organization, what you stand for, what your purpose is in life, to drive a strategy going forward, and how you have to navigate troubled waters. And I think that's the big issue, is if you want to build a business over a long period of time, as opposed to build something up quickly and sell it, because you get a lot of those kinds of entrepreneurs, you have to build a culture. You have to learn to navigate troubled waters. You have to build absorbance, if I can call it that, to ensure that you can take hits when something goes wrong, because things do go wrong on the way.
From a personal perspective, let's talk a bit about those troubled waters. How do you feel when you wake up and you've got your bonus is splashed all over the paper, or the fact that your salary increase is so much? How have you managed to navigate that, from the personal attacks that sometimes people launch at you and at your management
team? I try
team?
and use Alex Ferguson's philosophy. Don't read the newspapers, but I do read them. But I've learned it's people doing their job.
It's part of a public profile.
Yeah, so you can't avoid it. So you said to me, in my next life, would I go into a public company? Maybe I'd rather be in private equity where no one knows what I'm doing.
What do you still want to do?
I'm dedicated to Investec, so I just want to see Investec grow and develop. I'm also like to develop youngsters. I'd like to see, still participate in that side of life. So someone said to me, what do you want to do when you finish? I said, I want to go teach. Teach people about business, teach people about entrepreneurship, teach people about finance. Whether it's formal or informal, I don't know. But
well, that leads perfectly to ProMaths, which is one of the initiatives, the corporate social initiatives that Investec is fully invested in. And I know you've just celebrated your 10th anniversary on investment in that space.
Yeah, and it's something that's worked out very well, because we take kids from township schools who have no chance, and they end up getting A's for matric. And then they can go and do engineering, actuarial science, finance, anything in the medicine, anything in the hard sciences. And South Africa has a big deficit. And so we've already had about 2,600 youngsters matriculate. We've got just under 4,000 on the program, but it's over 3 years. And I'd like to double it, triple it. I'd really like to see that create proper momentum, because the problem with South Africa today, one of our big problems is our education system, particularly in the hard sciences, is very weak. We also train teachers. So we've got a program with the Independent Teachers Association training. I think we do 200 teachers a year in, again, maths and science. So, you know, we think that we do a lot of stuff on entrepreneurship as well, because we think education and entrepreneurship can help that growth rate go from 2% or whatever it is at the moment, or, you know, to the 6% that we need as a society.
Stephen, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. I've been chatting to Stephen Koseff, the CEO of Investec. You're watching Captains on CNBC Africa.